Thank you, sir. That was really, really good. Up next, we have Mr. Donjo Hodges to give us an overview of the Civil Works mission.
How are we doing on time? Are we okay? Great. Okay, good. All right, I'll put my dancing shoes on then. All right. No, you're okay. You're okay, Lindsay. Yeah, so a couple of things here. A lot of my material has already been covered, very, very well by the previous speakers. So we should be able to move through some of these fairly quickly, but I hope to get maybe a little bit more of a detail, a little bit more refinement on some of those topics. So I know you came as the Grinch earlier this week, so I brought my Christmas tie, my Christmas socks. I'm here to hand out a lot of goodies. So get ready for some of this. Okay, so the next slide 2 there. This is already been spoken to. We are a little bit unique in the Corps of Engineers, yeah, there you go. That we have two major watersheds here in ours, and there are some differences between those at the Great Lakes and those on the Ohio River and its tributaries, including the Tennessee and the Cumberland as well. So I mean, again, it's a little bit of a unique thing that we bring to the Corps, in that we have those two distinct watersheds that way. So the number there for the number of professionals we have is a little low. We're getting higher. We're doing, like I said, we're just like you all. We're looking for talent, right? That we're out there looking for and hiring those professionals. So it's getting to be probably about 4,800, more than 4,800 now professionals in our region. And we're trying to get closer to 5,000. So we're still got a little bit to do on that journey. But as I'm going to show you here as we go forward, that there's not nearly enough for the size of our portfolio that we have. And so that's what we're here to talk to you about. You need to help us round that out. Okay, next slide. The regional leadership team, ma'am, you did a great job going through that this morning, having folks stand up on that. But again, and I wanted to highlight the same fact that those of us here in Cincinnati, we're kind of that policy and in reviews and those hard, sticky points. We help get some resolution of that with the people in Washington, D.C. To get those answers there. And then some resourcing, right? We've got to get the money that moves down to the districts, but really the work gets done is at those 7 districts. So the leadership team that you see there below, that I think, like I say, all but Steph Hall, I know, because she's in Galveston, also partnering with the Inland Waterway User Board. But all the rest of that team is here today and eligible to be spoken to. Next slide. Again, this is our office in Cincinnati. We're Department of the Army, right? So we got to have an org chart. That's just how we do things. So you'll see how we're organized there. But again, we don't do the execution. We're that policy in the review and the resourcing part of that organization. That's all I really kind of wanted to highlight there. Next slide. Okay, the Corps of Engineers, or you say Civil Works, is organized along business lines, and so it doesn't really tell you the detail level what we're going to be looking for. That's what those plans and specs for as we reach out for your contracts. But you do kind of get a flavor if you're new, if you haven't worked with us before. The Corps of Engineers Civil Works is kind of give you a flavor of what we do. And navigation is a big part of it. There is represented by the Olmsted Lock and Dam, which is operational now. Thank you for your support in that. But we were still trying to tie that particular one up there. Another large business line is the flood risk management, flood risk reduction and management program, FRM. You'll see this is what we have, these reservoirs throughout the country, and I'll get into a little bit more detail on what we've got here in our region. But for currently now, when you talk about the money, dividing up the money, it's about 75% of the money in our region right now is in navigation. So if you work in those particular fields, especially in construction, a big chunk of that, the FRM portion is about 15%, and that includes not only, because we don't have a lot going on in construction right now in that flood risk reduction program, but that includes that emergency response. So there's small jobs. The small jobs there is represented down there in the bottom left is included as part of that, about 15% currently what we execute. Then there's the bottom right there, representing some environmental restoration efforts that we have going on. This is a growing program, especially with the current administration. This is a focus of theirs. Currently, about 6% of our annual program is in environmental restoration efforts. Then there's a couple more. Recreation, about 2%, right? All those campgrounds that we have out there, and for many of us growing up in this part of the country, that's what the Corps of Engineers was, one of those campgrounds out there, and also about 2% in hydropower. So small for our particular region, but significant nonetheless. Next slide. Okay, this is the same slide Mr. Dress showed there, but I do want to go to a little bit more detail on this. We are indeed an infrastructure-heavy organization, one of the largest in the Corps of Engineers. And when I go to meetings with my counterparts, they're always salivating and looking at my operations and maintenance budget, going, man, I wish you guys, I can't believe you get all that money. We should be getting it out here in California, whatever. I'm like, I'll be glad to share this money with you if you take this old broken junk from me. I'd be very glad to share it with you, because we have some stuff that's 70, 80 years old out there, and it's amazing what steel and wood can do when it's in the water. Frankly, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that the stuff's still out there and functioning, some of that stuff. But anyway, so just to kind of give you a flavor, 60 locks and dams, all right, just to get to know a little bit about us, 66 deep draft harbors, 83 shallow draft harbors, 150 miles of breakwater, 551 miles of levee, 88 FRM dams, mostly earthen, those dams I showed earlier, 890 recreation areas. And again, this is, kid growing up here in Ohio in the Midwest, this is what we knew about the Corps of Engineers, taking your boat out on a lake. And 10 hydropower plants, mostly in Nashville district, mostly down in Tennessee, working closely with TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority, for those of you who've been reading your history books, but also up on the Sioux Secretary of the Peninsula of Michigan. Okay, next slide. Here's literally the money slide. Okay, so our 3-year average, about $2.28 billion per year. That's per year. That's not 3 years worth. That's per year. So multiply that by 3, if you will. Looking in the past, and as Mr. Dredd highlighted earlier, our future is only getting brighter. The FY, what we're receiving this year, this fiscal year that started on 1 October. And over the next year as well, we already are aware of record levels more coming into this region. Nationally as well, certainly, but into this region as well. So 2.28 billion per year. Kind of a breakdown and pie charts. I'm a bean counter, right? This is what we do on these pie charts on there. 53% of that is in construction. So there's been a massive plus up in that, and that's part of that BIL. The bipartisan infrastructure law, that investment in getting after this infrastructure. We always have to tell people all the time, or at least I do in my when you're talking to people at church and other organizations you may be at, is that money's not going to new work. This is for work that's been on our books, backlog work that's been on our books for years and maybe even decades. So it's getting after some of that investment that's long, long overdue. And that's like I said, about 53% of that money was in construction. 42% though, and growing, by the way, especially on the Great Lakes, and growing, and I don't see that stopping for the next 3 to 5 years, certainly anyway, which is where our crystal ball kind of gets foggy after that, right? But it's growing. But currently 42% of that budget, that $2.28 billion per year, is in operations and maintenance, and they say growing, especially up on the Great Lakes. So if you have any boats and you're ready to go, start heading north on 75. You can get up there in time. But then about 5% also on this, and also growing in our particular region, is the formerly, I even had to write this one down. It's quite the acronym we do in the government. Formerly used Site Remedial Action Program. Because I learned also acronyms have to be able to be spoken as a word. Otherwise, it's just an abbreviation. So we love acronyms, right? So they had to add words to get some vowels in there, right? FUSRAP program. But that's getting after some of that remediation efforts from the early Atomic Energy Commission activities, including the Manhattan Project. So again, check out your history books if you didn't ring a bell as to what that is. But we're getting after that. But that is a growing in our particular region, right? Because there was years and years ago, as this program was established, there's 3 parts of the country where a lot of this work was done. It was decided upon, due to where population centers were at that time, that we were the lower of the 3 in priority. Well, the good news is, good things come to those that wait, right? Now those others are finishing up, so we're actually starting to benefit from that here in our particular area. A lot of soil remediation efforts involved with that. Okay, next slide. And there was also some, you don't have to go back, but there was some of the larger projects that we have, and we concentrate as mega projects in our particular region there. Here's one area I did want to kind of highlight. It's not huge, right? It's not with a B. We're in millions on this one here, but it's about a $50 million per year program. But the reason I like to highlight this one, the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, this is not a core-led program. This is a U.S. EPA, specifically by the Great Lakes National Program Office that's run out of Chicago. This is their program that they have, and it's multi-hundreds of millions of dollars a year, but about 50 million of that so reaches down to the core and in our particular region to execute. And that's in addition to non-fed sponsors adding into that about $40 million effort historically up to date has been contributed to that effort as well. But this is, again, working with U.S. EPA, so their focus on this is toxic substances, and they call them areas of concern. So this is, I grew up in Ohio, right, so I love it, but just the Rust Belt, right? This is an old industry came through here, and it's gone now. They made their money, and they're gone. They disappeared off into wherever they go. But now it's on us to clean up a lot of those sites that they left behind. And those are what the U.S. EPA designates those as areas of concern, and we're knocking them out. About 2 or 3 of those a year are being completed, and so that's why U.S. EPA comes to us and you to get those areas, particular areas, cleaned up. Invasive species. It's a big area, and that goes back because, again, we're kind of unique, and maybe why we were established as a big effort within the U.S. EPA is the movement back and forth, right, of riverine species into the Great Lakes and, saltwater, actually, sometimes species via the St. Lawrence Seaway into the Great Lakes, into the riverine systems. So that's we're a big part of that front in that battle on invasive species. Non-point source pollution on near shore. That's a U.S. EPA thing. What does that really mean? In Ohio, that means all that phosphorus, all that fertilizer that's getting run off of those farm fields into the Great Lakes, right? So that harmful algal blooms, maybe you've heard of some of those. It's a big area of focus from the Great Lakes restoration efforts. Habitat and species protections. And then they call it foundations for future restoration actions. I love that one. It's the catch-all. So anything not covered in the first 4, we'll cover it in the 5th one there, future actions. But again, I highlight the fact that I think a real growth area is that sort of that environmental restoration efforts. I think is a big growth area here in the future for this particular region. And I mentioned on there Carl Platts. So if you anything want to know about this program and really anything working up in the Great Lakes region, Carl works with me, but he out of Grand Haven, Michigan office. So he's not here physically today, but he probably knows many of you. You've seen him out on the project sites up there. Next slide. And yeah, this is an eye chart for you, but I know these slides are available, right, or will be made available. So this is kind of a summary. I took a snapshot about 3 weeks ago, and it's growing, right? Day on day, these more and more of these things are being scheduled out there. But at that point in time, about 3 weeks ago, looking 12 months out, right, looking about 12 months out, there were 207, and I'll call them major construction contract awards scheduled over those 12 months in the region. And here's kind of the breakout by district and by quarter as to when those are being foreseen as to being awarded. So kind of give you a flavor for that. 207 of them at that point in time. But I'm going to tell you, folks, that's going to grow. And here's the reason why. And Mr. Direct, you set me up well for this one, is in our operations and maintenance program. Typically, in the past, we would get about, we call them, I'm a bean counter, we call them work packages, right? But it's a project at the end of the day. We would typically in the past get about 100 of those per year, but we started growing. As of a couple of years ago to about 200 a year. But now with the infrastructure, all these emergency supplementals, these supplemental funding, we are now at 400 of these a year. So we're organized to handle 100, right? That's what we've been doing for years. We were working towards getting ready to be organized to handle 200. Well, guess what? Now we got 400 a year. That's 400 last year, of which we didn't get all of those done and under contract because we needed time to get plans of specs together, that sort of thing. We got another 400 this year, and we already know of another 400 in fiscal year 24, which will start, roughly about a year from now already. So again, future's bright through 2026. Very, 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 very confident of that because we already know what those numbers are, and that is without what in those of you who've worked with the Corps of Engineers enough. It's called work plan funding. About the half-year point each year, we get yet more projects thrown on top of us, on top of what those numbers those are the knowns, the 400 per year. We'll get another probably 100 here in about the January, February timeframe, and then another 100 a year after that, on top of those 400 per year. So it'll probably be closer to about 500 per year once it's all said and done. So again, operations and maintenance, if you've worked with us before, or if you haven't worked with us before, we're definitely going to be interested in talking to you and working with you on that particular one. But and I'll let you guys again. You'll have the slide in terms of the detail, but just to give you a flavor of what some of these types of projects are: miter, sluice, and tainer gate, repairs, installations. We had dredging, of course, soil remediation, breakwater and pier repairs, beach renourishment, dock construction, sewer improvements. Like I said, we actually those types of service type, maintenance service type contracts as well. Paving, fencing, generator replacements, potable water supply, footbridge construction, placement of riprap. It goes on and on. And you can see kind of I did a little bit of that. Kind of took the highlights, if you will, broke them down by district, so that if you get this slide, take a look at it and you know who to talk to here later today throughout the day, if you have the ability to work in those particular areas and have an interest. But a lot of work to be done. We can't do it without you. I showed you, like I say, let's say about 4,800 professionals we have in the region, but I gave you that litany of stuff that we have to maintain and improve upon, hopefully, when we get any opportunity. So we cannot do that without you. So we need you, we need your children, we need your grandchildren. Bring them, bring them all. Okay, I think that's all I have, I believe. Yes. And like I said, I'll be available around the rest of the day and available for questions. Thanks.
All right, next is a break, but before we do that, I would like to invite General Heidkamp in the interest of the team getting to know you better, sir. Thank you for attending.
Oh, what a mistake. The only thing you can do is ask generals and preachers to say a few words, right? No, all I want to do is sort of echo what you've heard already. We have this massive program, and the only way we're going to do it, hey, Margaret, stand up. Margaret Beecham, one of the great members of the regiment right here. Did you command out here, right? Former commander. Yeah, wow, first female general of the regiment. Wow, fantastic. Thank you for coming, Margaret. Anyway, the only way we're going to do it is with the help of everyone here. So we're very sincere. The Corps of Engineers feels like this huge monster that it's hard to sort of understand and know, right? Try and go to our webpage and find a phone number to call, right? Or a name. Laura, you're laughing. If I could find your phone number, I'd call you, right? But we're real people, right? You can hear us and see us right now. Get that phone, get that business card, because we want to work with you. We want to make this work. Somebody was talking about the bureaucracy. I am very sorry. We don't make it easy, but we want to make it easier for you. So whatever we have to do to make this work for you, that's what we're willing to do. And you've got a fantastic team. This is one of the best divisions in the whole Corps. So we will bend over backwards to make this work for you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being our partner. We really embrace that word partnership. We're going to make this work for you. We're going to make you successful. We want to be successful with you. Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, sir, for those words. We're actually ahead of schedule. I know that's shocker, the government running ahead of schedule for some things. But we're going to go ahead and take a 15-minute break.